everyone right now is in a kind of suspended animation where I may not like working with you, Erik, but given we're on allocation, I can't let you know that. I have to write it out. I got to take my lumps. And what we should be doing right now is having more conversations, having a higher quantity of discussions with people in our markets to try to figure out if we can work together, we can draft them on our team in the future. We all need to be having more conversations because we don't know. And what we think we know about the relationships that are still strong with our current set of customers, some of those are going to prove disastrously false.
Put that coffee down.
I'm not here to waste your time, okay? I certainly hope you're not here to waste mine. So I'm going to keep this short.
Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman.
The most valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree?
Coffee's for closers only.
Well, hello there, friends. Welcome back to the Behind Your Back podcast with me, Bradley Hartman, and as you soon will hear, Erik, the producer, Mr. Erik Rossi. On this podcast, we talk about leadership, personal productivity, time management, and the craft of selling in the construction industry. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Capital One Trade Credit. If you are interested in increasing revenue, increasing cash flow, while decreasing risk by leveraging a powerful digital platform to make it easier for your customers to buy from you, I think you will be interested in learning more about Capital One Trade Credit. So, Mr. Erik Rossi, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know I made you work on Sunday, but it was one of those things. I mean, we just had to get together. We had to record a pod. Today was the day we had to talk about prospecting, the NFL draft, which is, as you know, this is an event that I absolutely love.
NFL players work on Sundays. We don't take Sundays off either.
That's right. Well said. Now, remind me if my recollection is accurate. I believe you are a diehard Cleveland Browns fan. Is this accurate?
That is not accurate, no.
Oh, it is
no.
not. Oh,
no.
Remind me again, who do you root for?
The greatest team in the history of mankind, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Aha, the Steelers. Steelers, right. Steelers, Browns, they all kind of muddle together over there.
They're actually on the opposite ends of the spectrum, so that's not true.
Depends what spectrum we're talking about. But anyway, were you happy with the NFL draft? You guys selected at the number 20 spot, the number one quarterback in the draft, theoretically, Mr. Tiny Hands himself, Kenny Pickett. How do you feel about that?
I'm pretty happy about it. I prefer to call him Kenny Pittsburgh. I watched his career as it developed through his career at Pitt, and he got better every year. So we needed a quarterback. We drafted the best one on the board, and I'm anxious to see how his career develops as he goes on. I don't think he's going to come in and take the league by storm like Dan Marino did, but I think he's going to get better as he goes along, as he did at Pitt.
Dan Marino went to Pitt. Kenny Pickett went to Pitt. Pitt, the university, as you might assume, is in Pittsburgh. So, he's a local product there. And FYI, my hands from tip of my pinky to my thumb, 1 inch larger than Kenny Pickett's. Does that have any relevance whatsoever? It does not. Let's move on. Let's talk about my Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears, terrible for reasons that we will get into. And if right about now you're getting into this and you're wondering, does this have any relevance whatsoever to sales, the LBM industry? The answer is hell yes. Just let us get there. Let us walk through it. Okay. So the Chicago Bears have historically been really, really bad. And as I've said in this podcast before, I played football at Eastern Illinois University with the recently fired Mr. Ryan Pace, who's the GM of the Bears. He's been replaced, somewhat confusingly, by a guy also whose name is Ryan, whose last name also begins with a P. All right. His name is Ryan Poles. Now, what he did this year was almost the exact opposite of what Ryan Pace did. Ryan Pace, very famously in the 2017 draft, with the Chicago Bears helmet I have right now, autographed by the one and only Mitch Trubisky, who now plays for
the Pittsburgh Steelers.
The Pittsburgh Steelers. That's right. Traded away a boatload to move up one pick to get ahead of a team that was not going to select a quarterback, and they gave away the farm. Well, Ryan Poles did the opposite. They came in with 6 players in this NFL draft. They end up trading down 4 times. So they traded down, collecting more picks. There's a fundamental principle that is often ignored. Some teams, as we'll talk about, follow it, which comes to overconfidence and the NFL draft. And there's a famous paper that came out in April of 2005 by a famous behavioral economist, Richard Thaler, and a guy named Cade Massey. And the paper was called Overconfidence versus Market Efficiency in the NFL Draft. So we did an episode on this, episode 69. Now, granted, I absolutely love this topic, so I would strongly recommend you go back and listen to it. We also re-released it in April of 2020. But long story short, this is what the takeaway was from the paper. We find that top draft picks are overvalued in a manner that is inconsistent with rational expectations and efficient markets and consistent with psychological research. What does that mean? It basically means that we don't know. People who spend all their time and are so confident that Kenny Pickett is going to be the top quarterback at number 20, they don't know. And statistically, if you look at any one player that was selected in a specific position and the next player that was selected, it's a flip the coin, slightly over 50% on which one will be better. So number 1 quarterback's taken first round, number 20. The next one's taken second round, number 18. It's a flip of the coin whether that first quarterback or the second one will be better. So the best teams will generally acknowledge this fact and then simply try to do what, Erik?
Get more players.
Get more players, right? It's a quantity game because you don't know the quality. Despite all this effort and focus and attention and how much everyone knows how good these players, they don't know. We're going to go and transition here for the punchline. Why are we talking about this? Is it because we love the NFL draft? Yes. Do I love digging into the historic misevaluations of quarterbacks and seeing what happens? Yes. Here is why we're making this point right here to sales and the LBM industry. For many folks, there is no prospect. Don't waste your time. We're on allocation. Only talk to the people that we can serve because with all the back orders and the 88-week lead times on Windows, we need to focus on what we can control. Let's narrow our vision. Let's focus the aperture. Let's focus on the here and now. And what I'm saying is the idea that we do not prospect right now or we have not been prospecting, I think is an error in judgment. Now, why do I say that? Do I understand allocation? I do. Do I understand you can't take on new customers when you can't serve the ones you got? I do. Here's what you don't know. You don't know which set of your current customers are pissed off at the way that they've been treated by you or your salespeople, whether intentionally or unintentionally. You don't know what top customers of your competitors hate working with them, but everyone right now is in a kind of suspended animation where I may not like working with you, Erik, but given we're on allocation, I can't let you know that. I have to write it out. I got to take my lumps. And what we should be doing right now is having more conversations, having a higher quantity of discussions with people in our markets to try to figure out if we can work together, we can draft them on our team in the future. We all need to be having more conversations because we don't know. And what we think we know about the relationships that are still strong with our current set of customers, some of those are going to prove disastrously false. And when we say, well, my number 1 competitor, well, that builder in town has been working with them forever. There's loyalty there. Meanwhile, what you don't know is they feel that they've been taken advantage of and bullied, and they don't like the fact that they don't have any leverage. And as soon as things get better, they're going to be jumping ship. The question is, are you going to be ready? Have you done your homework on those prospects to be ready to work with them in the future?
Keep building those relationships because the relationships you have right now aren't going to last forever.
Yeah, you don't know. You have a left tackle today. You think he's going to be with you for the next 5 years. He blows out his ACL, has a couple concussions, and says, you know what? I'm going to be there for my kids. I got $12 million in the bank. I'm good. You don't know what's coming. And that's where, again, I think we all need to think more like a GM of a football team and say, are we doing our homework now? Are we meeting new people? Are we building relationships? We love talking about this being a relationship business. It's always a relationship business. So how are you building the relationships when you cannot accept money, right? How do we play that long game? Now, before we go, we have an interesting thing going on with wide receivers right now. Let's talk about Deebo Samuel, San Francisco 49ers. He's unhappy. Erik, do you know why?
He doesn't feel as though he makes enough money.
That's exactly it. Now, you throw a stick at someone in the NFL, you're going to hit someone who says, I should be making more. I get it, right? So he all of a sudden went from almost being Super Bowl MVP, right? All-world wide receiver, also a running back, sometimes a quarterback, like extremely versatile this past year. Now, all of a sudden, it started with Christian Kirk, which you'd be forgiven if you're an NFL fan and you're like, never heard of Christian Kirk. You don't need to worry about him other than the fact that he's a wide receiver. And because the NFL is a passing league now, he's getting paid $18 million a year. So Deebo Samuel says, wait a minute, Christian Kirk, that clown, is going to make $18 million and I'm making less than $2 million? I'm holding out. I'm pissed. Trade me. And he's all upset, right? And there's this phrase, comparison is the thief of joy. Because once we start looking around saying, look at these other people, how much money did they make, right? And why are they getting raises? Right now, I believe the largest experiment that is being played out right now in our industry is what happens to culture, what happens to teamwork when you have people who are generally known, outside salespeople, who make more money than other folks, and they can go and increase their salary by 3, 4, 5 times. Many people who were making a couple $100,000 a year and were doing that and having a good living now are collecting $100,000 paychecks a month. Meanwhile, you have an inside sales team who's busting their tail and they've seen, their salaries grow by 5% when the outside sales guys has grown 5 times. So what happens when all of a sudden guys are making $1 million, $750,000 a year? And when I ask the question, well, that's okay, I guess, as long as they are the model to represent the culture, how you treat other people, and many times they're not. And when things do soften and people said, actually, I kind of got used to making $600,000 a year and now I'm only making 2, and I live in, suburban Kansas City, I don't know if I can live on $200,000 a year. How do they handle that? Do they believe that their skill set has earned them several $100,000 a year? Or do they acknowledge that, hey, this is kind of a unique moment in time and a rising tide lifts all boats. And if this is the commission plan in place, this is the commission plan. And I'll take my checks and I'll cash them. And hopefully I'll be saving. So what's happening with wide receivers in the NFL, Erik, I think really resonates with me what's happening for salespeople in our industry.
Everybody can't make $25 million a year. So you need some players on your roster that makes a little bit less.
Yeah, and this is a theme that we're going to be talking a lot more because we're working with several of our clients right now on this. How do we value and how are we currently overvaluing salespeople? And who are the salespeople that have unique, scarce skill set, who represent the culture, that are all-stars, that we should certainly overpay in the market because they're special? And then who are the other folks that are account managers who have a skill set, but it is not entirely unique, right? They can manage accounts, but they're not going to go back in a future environment. They're not really good at prospecting. They're not going to create their own opportunities. Why are we paying them the same? Or why do we have the same commission plan for these? In my mind, these are 2 different positions. More to come on that later. Here's what I would encourage you to think about. As all this NFL draft stuff's been going on, if you got a favorite NFL team, take a step back and think of the word prospects. It is the same word. The NFL team, they get to know these NFL prospects. They interview them. They study them. They look at game film. They talk to their family. They talk to their friends. They talk to their old coaches. They go talk to their 6th grade algebra teacher. They're trying to understand if they should build a long-term relationship together. We should have prospects as well. And no, we're not going to be able to close them to bring them on right now because we don't have enough time. We don't have enough inventory. But that shouldn't change the way that we think about long-term, who should we be partnering with? Who should be on our team? Who should be on our roster, our account list, our client roster? I think more folks in our industry need to start thinking this way. And again, with the time in the NFL draft, I thought it was important we jump on and cut this one loose.
Great. Let's wrap it up here. I want to thank Capital One Trade Credit for sponsoring the podcast.
Absolutely. Capital One Trade Credit, increased cash flow, increased revenue, decreased risk. Check out Capital One Trade Credit. Erik, we're going to close out like we always do, my friend. You are owed nothing.
Deliver value first.
Make it a great week. Thanks for listening.